Just a Job is the podcast for the modern woman to redefine what success looks like. We highlight real women and their real stories. I didn't write any notes for this one. Woo, we're going in blind. How exciting.
Okay.
Rogue. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Just a Job. It's Ellen and Sarah. We're back for another weekly stand-up. Hey, Sarah, how's it going?
Hi, Ellen. I am doing okay. I'm back in Delaware. Not with you. I'm sad. I miss you.
San Diego's sad, too, because it's raining today.
Oh, tears.
Sad.
Well, Ellen and I were just talking. We actually just did an amazing interview, which I feel pretty, I almost said juiced. I did not mean juiced, like jazzed.
Okay.
About. But it's our stand up, and we did not do this last week, so we feel a little out of sync. Ellen, what is on your agenda for this week and next?
This week is week 3 in my new job, and I'm did all the training, met most of the team, got access to all of the things, and now I'm kind of slowly starting to settle in, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting, the difference from a small company to a global giant of it's so slow paced, and I'm having to adjust to that, which is not something that's a bad thing to adjust. I feel like the other way around would suck, but it's weird having time to do things, if that makes sense. And just learning the culture and everything's been an interesting learning curve in the best way. The going back to the office thing, though, that's been hard. I'm tired. I go in on Wednesdays for sure every week, and it's such a long day. I don't love that part. I do like getting dressed up and doing my hair and makeup, which is a little funny, but whatever.
Wait, how often do you go in?
Twice a week. For sure Wednesdays, and then I get to pick the other day, which is nice. But I found out that the office has reformer Pilates classes and bar classes. So guess who signed their little fanny up for some classes yesterday?
I was going to say, how could you not?
I'm so excited.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And I think the beauty of, I don't know. The reformer classes that I've always taken, the rooms have been so cold that I don't end up sweating. So that's nice. You wouldn't have to shower.
They have a spa. They have the showers. They have built-in blow dryers and not Dysons, but the Revlon blow dryer things. Isn't that ridiculous?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So I did that yesterday, which is fun and exciting. Chill weekend, which is great. And then next week, I don't know, more of the same. Maybe starting to get some more project stuff at work, trying to get some more workout classes going. I've been finding at the end of a very long day, going into the office, taking workout classes, just perfect. A great way to end the day. So trying to get more of a routine going. So we'll see. We've made it a couple of minutes into this episode and have not addressed the elephant in the room, which is it's Sarah's birthday. Woo! How exciting. If you listen to this, go tell Sarah happy birthday. Woo!
It's okay if it's belated. I love birthdays. But also, too, I told myself this year I'm not going to cry on my birthday. For some reason, I'm the sad birthday girl. It's upsetting.
You're just in your feels, and that's okay. Feel your feels.
Yeah. I told myself, I saw where this person wrote, however many years they were, so 28 things that they learned in their 28th year to be true. And it doesn't have to be this whole, oh my God, I learned that the blood. It could just be chicken ramen is good. It could just be something so simple.
I hate running. That's a good one. Put that one down.
That's what you learned in your 29th year. I hate running. Perfect. Iced matcha is good.
Yeah.
Write that down. So I'm going to try to do that activity here after. And yeah. But
What's
my
this
week
week? What's
and
next week
weekend,
going on?
I'll jump
Yeah.
into it. Yes, birthday celebration. So we are going, and we have a house down in Dewey Beach for the weekend, and we're having like a little, almost kind of staycation, if you will, because it's
Mhm.
close-ish to where we live.
Mhm.
And so we have some friends coming with us, and we're gonna go out, and I'm so excited because we haven't had the chance to go out and Dewey yet. So that's this weekend, and then next week, um oh gosh, work as normal, prep. I'll be out the first week of May. So just trying to get things in order for that. But that's pretty much the extent of it.
Sounds lovely. A beach weekend with friends. I'm
Mhm.
very jealous. I have FOMO over here, even though I haven't met your new Delaware friends yet, but I have
Yeah.
FOMO.
Yeah. Well, you should come hang out sometime.
Okay, October. I'll be there. I
Yes.
got to book those flights soon now that I say that. That's a
Mm,
problem for another day. Who cares?
yes.
Um,
But exciting episode.
yes, we're going to jump into the episode with Dr. Claire Musselman. She is, how do I even describe her? Like, I can't even think of, like, her energy is so infectious and magnetic. Like, I, I, at the end of the interview with her, I just was like all smiles and I just like felt so good and so like ready to take on the
Mhm.
rest of my day. So I hope everyone else has the same feeling because she's just like such a wonderful person to know. And then also go follow her on LinkedIn because she's got some really good stuff out there.
Definitely.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and jump into Claire's episode. Let us know how you enjoyed it. Sarah, I didn't know this, but there is like a comment function on episodes built into Spotify. So obviously YouTube too, of course, but specifically with Spotify. So if you have anything that speaks to you, that makes you excited, that you didn't know, something you learned, etc., a takeaway
Perfect.
from the episode, drop it in the comments. We want to see what people take away because I think the beauty of it is everyone's probably going to pick up something different, which is very cool. So leave us a comment. We would appreciate that. That's our new call to action for our listeners. That's pretty much it. Any other parting thoughts, Sarah?
No, happy tourist season.
Happy tourist season and happy birthday to Sarah.
That's it.
Woo! Just fucking connection, I swear to God. There she is. God
I think you
damn.
should keep that in there.
I think we're both
This
just like staring at
reality.
each other. No,
Yeah,
seriously.
just staring
Oh
at
my
each
God.
other.
Okay. Everyone enjoy Claire's episode. We'll talk to you later. All right, everybody, we're going to jump into an episode with a very good friend of mine. Dr. Claire Musselman is a behavioral scientist at Drake University who is known as the glitter and sparkles in the insurance industry. She's single-handedly a game changer who likes to make good things happen for people. Claire is incredible. I have told Sarah so much about you. I'm so
Mhm.
excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I love spending time with amazing women that leave me feeling revitalized, and you two absolutely do that. So I'm very excited to be here today.
Oh,
Amazing.
thank you.
I know that was a nice warm fuzzy. I'll take it. I met Claire originally. You were doing like a lunch and learn training on personal branding and like finding your why at my
Yeah.
previous company. And I remember going and I remember looking you up on LinkedIn and I was like, oh, she is famous. She has so many followers on LinkedIn. Oh my God. And then I was like, oh, I can't message her. Like that's, she's famous. She'll never know who I was. And then a couple months later, I left my job and I was like, what do I do? And I need to expand my network. And yeah, I remembered you. And I was like, I'm going to message her. What the hell? Like, I'll see what happens. And you replied right away. And we've had so many conversations since then. And it's just been such a joy getting to know you. And we've had many conversations that I feel like should have been a part of this recording on the podcast, but excited to continue those today.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to jump right in. Claire, what did you want to be when you were little? What did you want to be growing up?
I wanted to be a senator. I still do. Still want to be a senator, which is ironic
Wow.
because here at Drake, we have a thing called Faculty Senate, and you can actually run for Senate seats within our own like university community. And I am going to be a senator starting right after graduation. So you too can be whatever you want. You might want to specify what type of senator you want to be, but check that one off. But I really wanted to be a senator. I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to go into family law. I'm adopted, and it's really important to me that kids understand the rights that they have when they're in the foster care to adopt system. And it was really big passion of mine. And then I bombed the LSAT, and literally until last year, I never ever thought about retaking it. I just figured that was the universe saying, nope, not your path.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, you're the first woman to say senator.
Yes.
We've had a few law, lawyer, public speaking, but senator, that's like setting the bar pretty high. But okay, so family law you sat for the LSAT. I think I'm becoming an idiot. I was just like, you don't take the LSAT. No, you take the bar after.
I was for the bar. Take the LSAT to get in. Yeah. No, okay, so instead I just went and got my doctorate. So, you know, whatever.
No big deal.
No big deal. Well, it's interesting though. So being a woman in the corporate world, and I am a lot out there, and this whole like glitter and sparkles thing, I should show you guys a photo, or if you guys want to use it for the podcast.
Yeah.
Like I'm like 2 years old in a cat outfit with my hands up. Like I am on stage. Like I'm here. I was absolutely born this way. So there's Lady Gaga's like, if you were born this way, I can't sing or I would try. But I think that's super important to pay attention to, because a lot of my drive has been like from birth. I came like out, let's go. And I recently met my biological mom. We met last year for the first time in person, and it was like looking in a mirror. I was like, whoa. Oh, and we have the same blonde hair. We have eyelashes, and she's very out there, very gung ho. Let's do this. And it's really amazing to me, like the whole nature versus nurture, science, biology, upbringing, what really shapes us, or you truly, is that inertia really coming from within? Where does this reside? Because technically, if you go by statistics and data analysis, and what do we look at when we're looking at the success path of people that have had a background like mine, oof, I am so far an outlier. So it kind of makes me laugh when I start looking back. So when I say, just went and got my doctorate so I could be taken seriously in the corporate world, it's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. I got tired of people being like, oh, she's full of it, or just amazing the things that we say about women that we would never think twice about saying about men. So I've had to work way harder. I've had to be smarter than everyone in the room, know exactly what I'm talking about, check my emotions at the door, you name it. And so when you slap a doctor in front of it, and then people are like, oh, do we have to call you doctor? Yeah, because that's my name. I earned that. That's mine. But if you're one of my students, you can call me Claire. Because I'm here to relate with you. Like we are here on the same page. We are here to make good things happen for your life. I want you to be able to be receptive, and it needs to be an encouraging, inclusive environment. And so that's very different for me than having to sit in a boardroom and produce, here's my business strategy. This is why I think we need to go that way. Please give me this money and let's go off on this path together.
Okay, driven, tied up in a bow. There we go.
Yeah,
right?
I was just say passion is your middle name, right?
Yes.
Passion. So funny with that, when I was at a very large insurance company, I think they have about 70 companies underneath them. They didn't have an employee resource group for women to help kind of with our development. And I have been definitely one of those people that if you're not going to invest in my own career development, I'm going to build it myself, and I will find a way to bring people along with me. So I made a group. It was a secret society group kind of thing, where we had a bumblebee was our logo, because the bumblebee's wings are very small and proportionate to its body. So theoretically, it's not supposed to be able to fly, yet it does anyway. So there's a few things with that. But we would meet as a group of women who are in specific positions, and we would talk through what happens if you get tokenized as the angry Black woman. What happens if you get tokenized as you're being emotional versus passionate? How do you work through those things? And we talked about like physiological ways to adjust your body language, to hijack your brain, to take a deep breath and make sure that you were physically not looking upset. And it was probably one of the greatest things ever. So when I hear you say passion, it reminds me, because one of the one of the scenarios that I brought to the table was I just got called emotional in a meeting. it's funny because if you've ever taken the Enneagram, there is this like behavior, thinking, feeling, emotional, whatever scale. My emotion is a 1 on a scale of 1 to 100. I'm not an emotional person. I'm very action oriented, action thinking, and the emotional side doesn't really come to fruition. So it makes me laugh when people are like, oh, she's emotional. No, motherfucker, I'm passionate and I know what I'm doing and I know my purpose and I know why I'm here. And if that offends you, then go work on yourself and find your self-worth in something else than trying to get externally validated by taking me down.
What Enneagram number are you?
3. I am
Me
a
too.
3.
Yeah.
Big hug.
Wait, what's your wing? 2 or 4?
I believe I have been floating, but lately it's been more to the 2.
Okay.
My therapist and I talk about this on a regular basis. She's gonna be so proud. She'll be so proud.
It is so fascinating. Like, obviously you don't want to put somebody in a bubble or put somebody in a box, but it's so interesting because you're like, nope, that makes sense.
Yes.
And it's fluid. You're not always going to consistently be the number or the characters of that number, but it's like, oh, okay, I get it. It's like a way of understanding the people that you're around. Claire, okay, so you mentioned that you've had this fire, you've had this passion basically since birth. You thought you were going to be a senator, thought you were going to be in law school. What was your early career? And then how did that like jump into going back to school? I just want to know what those first like 5 to 10 years of college post-grad life looked like for you.
Yeah, you got it. So I graduated from the University of Iowa. Go Hawks. We got Caitlin Clark, NCAA tournament. Let's go Iowa women. Iowa coach Lisa Bluter is from my high school. So I got to give a giant shout out. So I actually used to be a personal trainer. I was Lisa Bluter's personal trainer when I was Iowa. I used to do some personal training with her. My adopted mom owned a few yoga and Pilates studios. And so I was really into the fitness industry for a long time. I worked for Gold's Gym. I was a professional power lifter. I did bodybuilding, like you name it. Was very into like the physicalness of life and got very into yoga and Pilates and you name it. And so I worked at a fitness spot in Mexico for a little bit, actually, while I was finishing up my degree at Iowa. And then I came back, debated on staying in Mexico, but was like, now
I'm sure
gotta finish my degree. So I left the warmness of Mexico and came back to Iowa, finished my degree, went over to Europe with a couple of friends for the summer, came back and was like, well, what now? I'd already bombed the LSAT. So it was like, okay, do I want to read? I don't know why. It just did not dawn on me to just retake it. I don't know why. So I joke that there's two belief patterns in life. Some of us are afraid to fail and others of us are afraid to try. I don't fall into the afraid to fail. I'll fall down time and time and time again. I'm afraid to try. Like, what would happen if? What happens if you're successful? What happens if you do well? What happens if? And that's where I think I still to this day need to start focusing on what happens if it's a safe space to try. But so I did that, went to Europe, came back. I was bartending, ran into my doubles tennis partner's dad who said, okay, if you really want to be an attorney, why don't you come work for us for a year? And let's see if you're still gung ho on this, we'll help you get into law school. I'm like, okay, sounds great. So I did it for a year. And then was like, I don't know. It's okay. It was work comp. We're doing work comp defense work. I got to work on the plaintiff side as well with some Hispanic people who had unforeseen injuries with a really awful meatpacking plant. And I think that kind of shaped what I wanted to do after that. I'd lived in Mexico. I've seen what people do to sacrifice for their family, and the smell of the medical records that would come into our office was pretty terrible. And these aren't like, I'm lying because I was out playing baseball over the weekend and I strained my back. I mean, these people are losing digits, limbs, you name it, and not being able to get treated like human beings. So it was really disheartening. And again, this is like 20 years ago, but it really gave me a much more human approach to it. So I had been at a conference because, we network, and met one of the adjusters that I had actually been working on a case with. I had a couple of beverages and was like, I don't like you. you treat my people like crap.
Yeah.
And just kind of started talking. And he's like, well, maybe you should do something about it. Our company has an opening. And I was like, all right, challenge accepted. And it's funny because I don't usually tell these sides of the story. I'm like, oh, and then I went and worked for a large TPA, blah, blah, blah. No, after multiple Jack and Cokes, because we were celebrating one of our clients' divorces, I decided to apply to go be a claims adjuster at a TPA, and they agreed to pay for my master's degree. I stayed
Oh,
because they
cool.
paid for my specialist degree. I got a specialist in education with an emphasis in business to figure out, all right, what is this leadership trajectory? And this is kind of before leadership was hitting that like sexy buzzword where there's all these books and all this content right now. And so I wanted to do more than my master's, but I didn't know if I wanted to do a full-on doctorate yet. So they have an intermediate degree called a specialist, which is really prevalent in the educational world. It's usually what you'll see administrators in education get. So I did that because I used to have a business line of it. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was very fun to be able to really dive into leadership and be like, okay, how does effective leadership change organizations? How does it work with people? I ended up going and getting my doctorate because I love the research component and then being able to talk to what you have statistically found relevant and make it consumable for people across all areas. So I've spent my whole career at this point in workers' compensation, working your way up. I loved being an adjuster because I loved working with people. And I was always fascinated by the interesting nature in which we will use our biases to demonize people in the work comp system rather than just try and figure out what are their psychological factors that are playing into their recovery process. And I think I've always been really passionate about that because it's no different than being a foster to adopt kid. It's amazing to me how many people pass judgment on anyone that's had a non-stereotypical upbringing. I am super proud to be who I am. I'm unbelievably grateful for my adoptive parents. I'm unbelievably grateful for my biological parents. I just have had a very unique and very interesting upbringing, but I shouldn't be demonized because it wasn't what the standard beaver cleaver lifestyle should have been. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I think I got kicked out by the time I was 16. I don't disagree with my parents for what they did. And also it sucked and it was really hard. And also it wouldn't have made me who I am today without that. And so progressing on this, I went into the claims world, again, worked my way up, supervisors, managers, ran departments, bounced over to a company called Absentia, where they did a deep dive study into what are the behavioral factors and the psychosocial factors that placate into somebody's recovery process. And I found it fascinating. I was there for 3 years. I got to learn from over 100 nurses and a couple medical directors that really talked about, like, why does this inhibit people's healing process? So I came back into the claims world and was like, I have all this knowledge. This is amazing. I'm working on my doctorate. I can read through a lot of these studies. Let's infuse this into the claims world and let's start giving our adjusters more meaning and purpose and understanding how their role makes everything different in the work comp space. And we can make every day better for each other every single time we pick up the phone. And I continued up that corporate path, going to different companies until I hit the C-suite. I've served in 2 C-suites. It's been a unique experience in both. And then after a layoff where you try and really figure out your identity, I decided to make my own life. And it's been really freaking awesome and beautiful. It's actually one of the reasons that my husband and I are together is I was like, I think I'm going to go back into corporate America. And we were really good friends at the time. And he said, that does not serve you. I can't in good faith be your friend and not tell you that you need to keep charting your own path. So I had been an adjunct professor for 5 years at this point. I love teaching. I love that we've got this opportunity for grant funding and doing cool stuff for people. And so I applied to be a full-time faculty member and got it. And then also got the opportunity to create a Master of Science in Leadership program with another woman. Her name is Molly Shepard. She's amazing. She's who I was meeting with before you guys. And we've developed this program that's going to launch this fall that is all about leadership. It does not matter if it's business, psychology, healthcare, pharmacy, you name it. We have this ability now to build out this master's program of focusing on all of the things from leading yourself to leading others to communities to, you know, big organizations, nonprofits, you name it, to make the world better for each other. And I am super excited about it. But it was really a very unique career path that brought me here. I do still stay in the work comp industry pretty heavily. I speak at a lot of events that try and educate people on identity, personal branding, communication, you name it, anything that I've been able to study and research and be able to factually support, I am comfortable speaking about and breaking it down so it's consumable for other people. I only speak about topics I'm passionate about, and I will bring my all. So
It's
it's a
so
unique path.
interesting. Yeah, it's
It's
so
a unique
interesting
path.
to like zoom out. Like
Mhm.
as you were talking, I was like, you say it's a unique path, but I feel like one, I understand you so much more now, and then two, it almost like everything just made sense. It's like
It's all in alignment.
yes, it's like
100%.
you talked about the nature versus nurture, and kind of your upbringing and your passion, and how everything just kind of almost fell into place in a way of where you have the
Mm-hmm.
passion with adoptive children and adoptive families. You have the passion of wanting to help others, and you kind of just found this like crazy, like, what's the word I'm looking for when two paths
It's a
come
crazy
together?
niche. It's a super
Yeah,
niche
but it makes
because
sense.
it does. It absolutely does.
Yes.
And it's all, and I love that you say that because I get asked a lot. Like I write, I speak, I teach, I'm working on a book. I
Mhm.
built this program with Molly that we are rolling out and overseeing and teaching and trying to do the marketing and getting the students admitted and advising and all of that that goes into that. But it truly all falls into alignment.
Mhm.
I want to be the single-handed game changer that leaves people better than I found them. And my goal in life is to leave people feeling more whole and less broken, because
Mhm.
we can all focus on our broken components. It's how we bond together as humans, is usually through negative impact, which is kind of funny, and it makes sense of the way that we're wired and whatnot. But I want to leave people feeling better than I found them. And it's really, again, it kind of all goes into an alignment capacity where I have found, again, my innate nature is really wanting to challenge the status quo. Why do you want to be a senator? Because I'm tired of the way women have been depicted. I am not a second class citizen. And I knew that from the time I was 2. But I will tell you, like, the confidence I lucked out in having a dad that was so strong about, like, you are a badass, you remember who you are, you know who that is. And I think he's told me that since day one. So in raising my daughter, I've tried to be the exact same way, where, like, we can learn so much from the people that have come before us with whatever influence they have. They don't have to necessarily be in a parental role, but who influenced you the most? And so when we're
Mhm.
looking back at our influence and what has
Mhm.
shaped us, we keep these moments and we're all frozen in that time where it's interesting to see how it progresses and what we become as
Yeah.
a result of it. But when I look
Mhm.
back at this moment now, especially from like that 20,000 foot view, I definitely look at, why did you want to be a senator when you were so little? Because it was absolutely going to change the trajectory of the way that we operate as women. And so help me,
Mhm.
I'm not done yet. I like to bring everybody along with, add those seats at the table. I'll build my own table. Come,
Yeah, I love
you're
that.
Yeah.
always welcome.
Mhm.
It's definitely an uphill battle, a never ending journey. And even just like in
Yeah.
talking with, you think about it, like if, our generation mothers, like basically our grandmas, were some of the
Mm-hmm.
first people to like go to college or get an education, but that's very much like white picket fence still. And then you
Yep.
look at our mothers, and our mothers were the one that were kind of balancing the line of like, do I want to have a career? Do I stay at home?
Mm-hmm.
And like the now generation, it's like you go to work, you do these things, but you still have to simultaneously balance being at home, and like the role has changed so much. And it's always interesting like talking to women in your family or women that have seen 40 plus years of career
Mm-hmm.
advancement, and just women in not just the workplace but just like in the world, the things that they can do, and also too the time balance of it all. Like
Yeah.
I think I saw a post that was like women couldn't own their own business until the 80s without signature from a man. And it's like you
I felt
couldn't
the
have
same
Yeah.
post.
a credit card without your husband's signature. Like all these
Ugh.
things where we couldn't do something until somebody else told us we could. And now,
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
again, there's that.
there's still things that like we can't do without somebody telling us yes, but like the possibilities, and I can't even imagine like for your daughter and like our children moving forward, like how much more
Yeah.
they'll be able to do. But it's definitely that like kind of pay it forward thing. Will there be things that I'm working on right now that I'll ever have benefit of? probably not, but to think about the generations behind me. Like, Ellen, that's the perfect example of like when you were trying to fight for maternity benefits. It's like, am I pregnant? No. Will I be pregnant in a few years? Who's to know? But like, why can't I put myself forward and put my energy in for the other people behind me? Because like,
Absolutely.
when those people win, we all win. And I think that that is such the mentality of just women in general, and like having the matriarchy. It's just like, it's a circular environment. There's no hierarchy. Like, we're all here for the benefit of each other. So taking all of those words into mind, I am super curious, Claire, like your experience working in C-suite, because I think I have a very limited mindset. I literally just saw a post where it was kind of one of those like on the street interviews, and they're like, name a female CEO. Not even of like a Fortune 500 company, just name a female CEO. And there were, you know, for one person saying one name, there were like 10 other people that couldn't spit anyone out.
Yeah.
I am so curious in working with C-suite, especially in probably a pretty male dominated field. Like, what was that experience like for you? And do you have any kind of crazy stories from it?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So a couple of things. One, I think that you just absolutely depicted why we talk about it's easier to fail than to try, because we couldn't try without somebody's permission. I've never thought about that until you just connected those dots for me. So thank you, because now that makes me understand the why behind this. I also think you bring up a really good point when we look at our grandmothers did this, our moms did this. My mom did stay at home for a while. We also had a nanny, we did cleaning lady, very white picket fence. And I remember when she went back to work, I think I've judged her a lot in her not being like, well, you weren't there for me enough, or whatever, you know, whatever the mother womb stuff is. And also, I think you're giving me a really good mirror opportunity for some grace, because she was like the first to do that. So did you do it well? No, it's all of us trying to do this our first time. It's our first experience doing this. So I want to thank you for the freedom of being able to have that from a different thought and a different lens. So thank you very much. C-suite. Okay. So I was on the oil and gas side.
Whoa.
So I hit the C-suite in a TPA, small TPA. Which I was the first woman. It was awful.
Put it kindly.
So I grew up in a neighborhood with all boys. My dad taught me really well how to navigate. You're going to be the only girl. You better get tough skin. You're going to have to be the fastest. You're going to have to be smarter than everyone. Again, my dad trained me very well from like a protective father standpoint. And I think that a lot of those skills have been able to translate over. Like, you got to be able to chameleon pretty fast. Also, people say some horrific things to you. I wrote an article for Bloom magazine called That's Cute, Sweetheart. And it talks about a lot of the scenarios that I encountered where older women, like, I'm tattooed. I have sleeves. I sometimes wear them out. Sometimes I don't. I don't know. I forget that I have them, to be honest. Older women would be really shitty towards me about it and be like, why would you do that to your body? Like, how can you represent your life like that? I'm like, okay, well, it's art, but thank you for your opinion. Also, you realize you're not competing with me, right? Like, I want you to win too. When you win, I win. When I win, you win. Our competition is not with each other. And I think that that's one thing that's really unique. And so whenever you're able to like get into those higher level positions, it's fascinating who's going to be kind to you and who will befriend you in those situations. I have joked with one of my really good friends, Pat Sedora, who runs a law firm. It's lonely at the top. There are not a lot of people that want to be your friends. You're the first to get thrown under the bus. You are the first to get blamed for things, which is kind of unique. Maybe, I don't know. The oil and gas side was pretty fascinating. At least I knew they were going to stab me in the back to my face, which was a lot better than behind your back. You know, we think of women as being so catty, but men are just as bad. They just are smarter at doing it. I think Ryan Gosling has this quote in the Barbie movie where he's like, oh, are you guys still doing the patriarchy? And this person he's talking to in the corporate building says, oh, we're still doing it. We just do it way better now. Damn straight they do. Why do you think women hate each other? This wasn't just like we woke up one day and we're like, hey, I'm not going to have your back. You can't tell me that's not systemic. Get out. So it's things like that it's just like, whoo. But let's see. One crazy story. I was at a conference. I was running late to come meet with a potential partner that might partner with us. And I get there and I apologize for being late. Somebody else from my company had stepped into the meeting and the gentleman said, well, I don't know who you think you are being late to this meeting. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, first of all, do I really have to call you doctor? I thought you would be older and uglier. And I was like, I'm
No.
sorry, what? And I think he tried to call me Claire because I reintroduced myself. I'm like, no, I'm Dr. Musselman. And it was fascinating because he thought that with my name being Claire, that I would be older and unattractive. And it was just really degrading. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And that like being with him is a gift when you're vying for my business buddy. So I want to hear your company's mission, vision, values, and how you're going to benefit my people. I don't care about the rest of this. Like, I'm not your drinking buddy. I don't really care if we have drinks or not. How are you going to benefit our relationship moving forward? And the interesting thing was we had done this meeting because he was a friend of one of the CEOs. And so this was like more of a favor. And afterwards, I went to the CEO and I was like, wow. And he's like, yeah, I meant to warn you about that. Like, it's funny. Like, it's funny to be degraded. Okay.
Right. As if he's
Cool.
probably never experienced that himself. Ellen and I say this all the time. We're like, the fact that people come to this idea in their head and then they still have that second motion of letting it come out of their mouth. You're like, what was your expected outcome? And that, I'm sure in that experience, you were probably like, man, I wish I would have said this or whatever.
I do. So that's how I phrase this. That's cute, sweetheart. I give like 4 or 5 scenarios of what happened, what I did, and what I would have told my younger self. Like, I want to turn this into a book of different women talking about here's what I wish I would have done, because I think it's important for us to realize that this stuff is still rampant. And I feel 2 ways when other women come talk to me about this, especially my students right now. I feel validated that they believe me, because there's so many people that are like, that didn't happen. And it's like, right.
Why would
and
I
sexual
lie?
assault doesn't happen and rape doesn't happen. And you're right. And the pay gap. Thank you. The Wall Street Journal published an op-ed that said the pay gap's a paradox. I'm like, you're cute. Okay. Next. But it's validating that they then believe you, but it's so sad that it still continues to happen at this time that it does. And I think this is where the power of sharing stories, but also, who would it benefit for me to go talk about the derogatory comments that get said to me? Like, who does that benefit? And if you know me, I'm a big affirmations person. My alarm is set with positive affirmations. I have quotes written on my mirror, my daughter's mirror. We have doormats in front of every mirror that say like, you're beautiful, go have a good day. This goes against everything that I stand for. And I think that since I've put myself out there as I'm glitter and sparkles and bright and shiny, that people are like, oh, really? Let's see how bright and shiny. Well, game on, motherfucker, let's go. Because trust me, with my background and what I've grown up with, like I speak very highly of what I've come from. It took me a really long time to get here. So like, my dad's an alcoholic, my mom's mentally unstable. Like, you want to come at me now? Come, because the childhood I had prepped me for this. So I'm ready. Let's go. And also, why do we have to go down that road? Why can't we just be better? Like, I want it to be better for my daughter. I want her and her friends to be better. And I'm just like, oh, girls, if you guys would just quit slamming each other, it would be so much better. You are each other's own allies in this place, and you can get so much farther together. Because on those days where you're crying in the bathroom or something doesn't go well, or you're not feeling pretty enough, smart enough, confident enough, not sure if you should be wearing that, saying that, or whatnot, a smile from somebody, or, you know, just the encouragement of someone else of saying like, you've got this, can make all the difference. And why we as women don't do this for each other more is just like disheartening.
Yeah. I saw a creator on TikTok say like one of her like non-negotiables that she always says is like, always say the compliment. Like, you think in your head, you're walking down the street, oh, I love her shirt, or like, oh, the way she did her hair. Something. Exactly. And I think that like, as women, it's such a great thing to be able to do that, because like, it makes my day. If I'm out somewhere and a girl is like, oh my God, I love like your nail polish. I'm like, oh, that's so nice. It's literally my nail polish. Like, who cares?
It's the little things like, though. It absolutely matters.
Absolutely.
It's just
and
a nice validating component.
Right. And the fact that, one, you have the ability to do that with your daughter, and then also with students, and like that time of life is so important to be able to know and understand those things and hear it from someone that's been there and knows how important it is, I think is so essential. Like, even still, I mean, Jesus, I'm turning 30 30 in a month. And like, it's just repeating those things to myself and keeping those in mind.
Yeah.
I'm better about it now for sure, but it's still, we talked about this earlier. It's still a continuing process to learn that for yourself, you know?
One of the other things that I highlight quite a bit, and I said this actually earlier in one of my classes I was teaching,
Mhm.
you will never be criticized by somebody doing more than you because they don't have time to tear you down. They don't
Yeah.
care. They're out doing
Mhm.
their own thing.
Yep.
So when somebody does throw shade or does anything that's in a negative context, would you want to trade places with this person?
Mhm.
And are they even at your caliber to even try, and demean you like that? I think that
Yeah.
that's been something that's been really powerful. I have like a brother in the industry, Adam Lopez, and we talk about this on a regular basis where it's like,
Mhm.
hey, you know, um, you'll never be criticized by somebody that's doing more than you. So
Mhm.
be careful who you want to listen to and pay attention to those who are trying to set your soul on fire and ignite you forward.
Right. Right. Ooh, I like that. That's a great quote. Tell me about your transition of climbing the corporate ladder, finding success, going through a layoff, and then being like, now what? Do I want to go back to the corporate world? Do I want to, like you said, kind of redefine where I'm going next? Like,
Sure.
what was
So
that decision process like, and
layoffs
what did
always
you
come at
experience?
really prime time of life. Like they just time themselves so perfectly. So I had knee surgery the week before, so I couldn't walk.
Oh,
I had a cartilage replacement surgery, so you can't like shuffle or jostle your knee for like 6 weeks after surgery.
Yeah.
So I already felt awful about myself
yeah.
from a physicality standpoint, and then to get laid off during that process was kind of like an identity shock. And so I work a lot with people now when I go speak. I'll talk about this from an injured worker standpoint, from an employer standpoint, from an organizational standpoint. How do you introduce yourself? Because a lot of us tie ourselves so much to roles we play instead of like, no, I'm asking you to self identify. Like if you take away your title, your position, your familial structure, what year you are in school, what's your major? If you take all that away, who are you? And who are you at your core before the world starts to shape you? And so this is where like I went back and I stared at this little picture of myself from when I'm 2 and I'm like big and out there. I'm like, who is this person? Like she's an innately born leader. She is here to shake shit up. Like she's not here to sit back and be silent or be put in the corner. Like she is here to push things forward. And Lovey Jones, she has the book Professional Troublemaker. She talks in her TED Talk about there are some of us that are just born with this innate ability to roar, and the world wants to tell us that we need to whisper. And she chooses to yell anyway because she can't not do it. And I think that
Mhm.
that's one of those things where when I was looking at this pivotal moment, it's like, okay, what can I not do? So what is that thing that sets your soul on fire? And I had been blessed. So and I'm going to say blessed because I love the ability to teach. I love the ability to shape around people's minds and to help identify things that they might not agree with, or they'll give me a new perspective, or we can have these conversations where you can hold two truths at the exact same time. And that's okay. You don't have to always be the same. During this point, it was, all right, so how do you identify with yourself and what are you going to do to move forward? So I was teaching a lot at this point. I've always taught a lot as an adjunct, like multiple classes, probably more than I teach now, which is interesting in itself. But I was teaching a lot. And so it was kind of like, all right, while I'm teaching the students, what can I learn from them as well? And it really was, okay, if I can just take one step forward, how does that next door open? And it's amazing the power of relationships. And this is where I guess I never realized that like public speaking could be a career. I didn't realize that.
Mhm.
I also didn't realize I had a personal brand. Like there were things that became very aware to me after the fact. And again, like I've always been like, it's always been a me thing. I'm an only child. I mean, I have biological siblings now, but I've always been an only child. I've always only been able to rely on myself. And I met so my very first boss when I first started working at the law firm had called me. And again, this is where I say you take one step forward and the door will open. I had just finished doing a couple of speaking events and she called me. And when your first boss calls, you always call her back because you
Mhm.
never know what's going on. And
Mhm.
Terry is powerful. Her name is Terry Little. She's amazing. And she said, I want you to try something. I know you've been doing a ton of public speaking, but there's this event where you only get 5 minutes to articulate your ideas. I think this would be a good stretch assignment for you. I was like, okay. And she's like, and I have a friend, Dr. Selena Perlman, who will be there. And I think you should connect with her. I was like, okay. So I submitted a proposal. I got accepted. I went, I did the presentation. And then I met Dr. Perlman, and she's a very good mentor of mine. She's huge in like the industrial psychology space and organizational development, but she's also a female speaker that does amazing things. Well, at this time, that's also the event was hosted by my husband. I did not know him at the time, but this is where life really shifts things and puts the right people in the right spot. So Selena is one of those people that was like, you've got a gift. You need to take this and run with it. And so this is where, again, if you just take one step forward, what will life do? It'll open you another door. And this is where, like, my husband has a podcast, and he's like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? And I was like, sure. And we did that very first podcast and haven't stopped talking since. So here we are a couple years later, and boom, you know, we have a life together. But it's really interesting how those little tiny movements shape. And when I was going through kind of this identity piece, he saw somebody in me that I didn't see at that time because I was still navigating this layoff point. And it really does just take one person to have your back. Like, it can be as simple as somebody on the street saying, hey, you look great today. Could change the trajectory of your entire life by just one comment, seeing something, saying something that people see in us that we might not necessarily see in ourselves. And if you, like, if we think about how this ripples through like our own families, like if I think back to, so it is not a secret, my adopted mom and I don't talk, but I wonder if she would have seen herself in a different way or had a better community of women, especially while she was going back to work. Like if she would have just been able to see herself in a different capacity, could she have been better for herself and as a result better for me? Like I think about that with my daughter all the time. Like, what can I do to make sure that she's proud that when people are like, oh, that's Sadie's mom? Because, you know, professionally, I'm Dr. Claire Muselman. I go out in the glitter and sparkles. I'm Dr. C. I'm a professor. But the most important role that I play right now is I'm Sadie's mom. Because that's a little human life that I'm responsible for. And I want to make sure that she's proud that I'm her mom. So if I show up at something and people are like, that's Sadie's mom, I want that to be a good thing.
Right.
Definitely.
Because that ripple effect is huge as well.
Right. And then to know that like her future children will be able to look up to you. Like it is such a butterfly effect, if you will. And when you tell somebody something about themselves, I actually just had a friend who called me the other day, and we've been friends for forever, and she left me this voice note. She's just like, I've just been working through some things, and I just wanted to let you know, like, all of these really niceties, basically. And I was like, I know that you think those things of me, and I appreciate it so much that like you shared it with me, because it was like, not that she was purposefully withholding it and that I didn't know that she felt that way, but it's so important to share that with the people, not just the women in your life, like really anyone in your life, but especially the women, and especially the people that are in your circle and continue to show up for you and continue to be a big supporter of you. And because she was doing that, I felt compelled then to like reciprocate it back to her, but then also to like do it again to other people. And like it takes very little time, very little effort, but you can still be intentional and you can still make people have those feel good. So man, I just want to say that I wish I had someone like you in my circle 7 years ago when I was in college, because I think about like who I am now as, you know, this 28-year-old woman. And I'm like, if I had somebody similar to you that was like telling me these things or showing me these things while I was in college, like I would be light years ahead of like where I'm at. And I think it's so important, because I think that college is sometimes the most like neglected but most important part of your life from just a personal development perspective.
Agreed. Oh,
and
yes.
they're kind of like I mean, there's a lot of moments in your life where you could be considered like the lost generation or like the lost people, but college age students, anyone in their young 20s, like there's so much life ahead of them and so much that they have yet to learn. And I can only imagine the students that you've had and like how they're doing now after you showing up in the way that you have in the 50 something minutes that we've been together. But for them to have you for like a whole semester, I'm sure it was just like an insane period of growth for them. So
they're amazing. So our females are actually like the minority in business school here at Drake, which is kind of interesting because in the US that's not. So I think that you might be onto something there. But I want to comment on one thing that you said. So you got that voice note from your friend. So I
Mhm.
keep a voice message on my phone. I keep two. I keep one from like the last time my daughter left me one when she was little. So it's like her tiny voice. But I have one from my girlfriend, Rihanna, who lives in Baltimore. And she left this on April 25th of 2018. And I keep it. And I'm not going to play it for you guys, but the transcription is like, good morning, beautiful. I just want you to know that I am so proud of you that you made it through that day yesterday. It was a tough one, but you are Claire and you are kick ass. So you rock the fuck out of today. And you forget about yesterday and all the little stress and worry and all that came with yesterday because of how awesome and beautiful and smart you are. You're a kick ass boss. You're an amazing mom. You're a great dog mom. You're an amazing friend and you are just so free. So hang tight to your face. Keep holding on. Kick ass today. I love you so much. Have a great day. I keep that. So when days go haywire, I have my darling friend who I met in my doctoral program who always has my back. It's 40 seconds again from 2018. And she knows every time we meet for brunch, I'm like, I still listen to this. Like, it's amazing those women that can just say something when you need it.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Everyone
Absolutely.
listening,
Well,
pause this right now.
Oh, go ahead.
Anyone listening right now, pause this.
Yeah.
Go take 40 seconds, record something to send to a mom, a friend, someone that you know needs to hear from you. Go send it and then come back and know that you did one good deed today.
Yes, it's like a you should know her movement. So that's what my stickers all say. I'll gladly send you guys these, but they're my thing right now is like, who should you know? You should know her, whoever her is for you. That's my little logo, but I'm very excited about that. It's like and they're glittery, but those are like my new stickers to hand out. Because I think we should talk about you should know her, whoever her is for you.
Please send. We'd love
I was just about to ask you a question, and then I was like, I've been calling you Claire this whole time. Oh my God, not me going against Dr. Muselman. Like, I'm like, I broke the golden rule. Dr. Muselman, I'll preface it that way. Tell me how you define success for yourself.
Freedom and flexibility of choice. Freedom and flexibility of choice. Absolutely. Like you get to choose your day. We give everybody else the scope of control, but no, like I choose to wake up in the morning. I choose what time I want to get up. I choose if I'm going to have coffee and sit down with my dog. I choose if I'm going to wake up my daughter and have her yell at me or if I'll wait till she decides to come down. But I get to choose what path I take every day. And so when those days that I'm like, oh, I'm so busy right now, I get to be busy. I get to be employed. I get to do all of these things because I've actively chosen them. I didn't let life happen to me. You've got two options in life. You can be the protagonist to your own story, or you can be a victim of circumstance. And I refuse to be a victim of circumstance. I'm going to take the power of choice and the ability to build a life that I am proud of, that I'm proud to wake up of and go live every day.
Mic drop.
She knew that.
Boom.
Yeah, she knew the answer right when you asked it. It was perfect.
I think about it a lot, though. I think about it a lot. It's been a really like I did 3 speaking events yesterday, and then hopped on an airplane, came home, and then I taught again this morning. And my husband's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I chose this life, and I'm proud of this life." And there are like we've got busy seasons. And then I was looking at a meme that is Posh Spice, like Victoria Beckham and David Beckham, and it says, "Don't worry, it's just busy season." And he says to her, "So how are you?" She's like, "I'm great." And he's like, "How many hours did you sleep last night?" And she's like, "I'm fine." And he's like, "For real?" And she says, "I slept 3." And he's like, "It's busy season." Like, it's kind of funny. It's like this little like between them. And so it makes me think about that where I'm like, but we choose this. We choose to be able to do this. And all the wealth and opportunity. Like these are all opportunities. You get to say yes. You get to say no. You get to be the decider of that.
But you have the choice. I think we should head into some rapid fire. I'm gonna kick it off. What is one thing that you have to make it through the workday?
Coffee, venti blonde Americanos. Last week, like this is my big kicker, but last week I was trying to surprise my husband. My husband was trying to surprise me. I get to Starbucks. He was in the shower, and Bree, our Starbucks manager, was like, "You guys both ordered today. Did you know that?" And I said, "What?" And she's like, "We have 7 of them. We only made 5 because we feel like you guys are starting to get a pretty high caffeine intake." And I laughed and I was like, "Oh,
7
I didn't know, but we were trying." Yes.
It's a lot of liquid.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So I voice memoed this to my best friend and she said, "Wait a second. So what's your normal order?"
Right.
Normally we each get 2. And that's like, we have one together in the morning and then we have one, like if he's getting in the car, I'm getting ready. It's really not as bad. And we only do the 3 shots, not 4.
Okay.
It's still
Okay.
a lot, but
But
Holy
absolutely
cow.
coffee.
Oh my God. Okay. You're highly caffeinated. Check. Starbucks.
Yes.
Check.
Yep.
What is your favorite way to unwind after work?
Ideally, it's running. I love running. I love also, so my body doesn't necessarily love running. I've had a hip surgery. I've had a knee surgery. My surgeons, to make sure that I don't need replacements, have asked me to not run. So I do a lot of walking with the dog, and it is a really good transitionary time for me to kinesthetically process the day, complete the stress cycle. He's adorable and can walk without a leash and is just super kind and one of the best dogs I've ever seen in my life. And so it's like our time together, and it gives me joy to watch him to go play. He's a Vizsla. He loves to like go get lost in the woods, and seeing his happiness also like innately makes me happier. And usually it's not terrible weather, but the walking is a really good transition for me to just kind of get outside, take some air, watch the sunset, you name it. And it's just a really nice way to transition into what am I grateful for today?
I agree on the walks of the dog. If you don't already
Yeah.
have that as part of your routine in any way, even if you don't have a dog, I have been incorporating like a 30 to 45-minute walk every morning, and the birds are out chirping as of late. And I'm like, oh, why do I feel so much better and more energized?
I do. I love
starting
that
the day.
sound.
Yes.
Love
Yes.
that sound.
That's so
I've
funny.
also started to wake up with one of the, it's called Hatch, or it's one of those like
Mhm.
alarm clocks.
I know what you're
that
talking about.
does
I
the
just
light.
changed. Yes.
It is life-changing. I wake up so much happier because it's not like an abrupt out of sleep, but it's this nice sunrise in your room, and then you can set it to have the birds, because the birds make me happy.
I know.
Yes.
I think that's just like human nature. I'm like, why do I like the birds?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Last question. What is one of the best benefits that you've ever had
In life, work,
in workplace?
Best benefits I've ever had in work. You know what I really, really, really loved? When I was in that C-suite at for the smaller TPA, they gave you your birthday off. You could take one day during your birthday week. I just kind of liked that they acknowledge that. Like, I think that a lot of us either don't take time to appreciate that we're alive, and that this is like, people are like, oh, it's just my birthday. It's a really good day to celebrate. It's a really great day to look back and take some self-reflection. And I love that they acknowledge that. I think it's something simple. Like, it's simple like that. But like, I try to remember people's birthdays. I'm not great at it, but I will put them in my phone. If it's a student that I know that it's their birthday, I'll send them a Starbucks gift card. But I really miss the way that we used to celebrate people back in the day, you know, before it was like, you know, 9,000 notifications on social media that people are sending you a happy birthday. But it's like a real acknowledgement of, hey, we're really happy of your human existence.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit I think is awesome. Yeah. But I think it's the smaller benefits that you don't necessarily think about. It's like, oh, I really like that. I'm also really proud of companies that are helping, if they're not going to do tuition reimbursement, that they're doing like the back end of it, where they will pay for some of people's student loans. That's the big one. I am really proud of companies that are starting to do that, because as someone who is actively still paying off her student loans for the better part of the decade, it's really helpful if you're not starting out in that much debt.
Absolutely. Yeah. Claire, thank you so much for spending your time with us. This was so much fun.
For having me.
So many great
Love this.
takeaways.
Great.
Again, I hope everyone took a second to go send a little warm fuzzy to someone that they know. Like, that's my one action item for everyone out of this. So thank you again for spending your time with us. I'll make sure to include all the places, including that article that you were referencing earlier in the show notes, so we can find, one, read the article, and two, all the places to find and interact with you, because you're famous on LinkedIn. My words. Thank you, everybody.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh, good. Thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Just a Job. We hope you have a fabulous week and a fabulous Monday. Make sure you're following us all the places on TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Thank you, everybody. And remember, it's literally just a job. Bye.